What you see on the screen is the community of Cerro de Pasco. It's 4,400 meters above sea level in the Andes of Peru. There are 67,000 people living up there. So you can see there's a huge pit right in the middle of the city. It's a city, but it's also a mine. The Spanish came up there in 1630. They discovered that big mass of lead, zinc, copper, zinc, gold, and silver. They start mining that. That mine has never stopped its operation since then, 350 years. I don't know one mine in the world that has such a statistic. In 1906, Mr. J.P. Morgan himself, made what they still call the greatest investment of the 20th century in Peru. He invested tens of millions of dollars, which is the equivalent today of billions of dollars. Americans have sent to Cerro de Pasco the best engineers, the best geologists, the best equipment. Cerro de Pasco was the school of all the mines. It also became the cash cow of the country. They listed the company on the New York Stock Exchange back in 1916 under Cerro de Pasco Copper Corporation. This is a usual forward-looking statement that the regulators suggest us to add to our PowerPoint presentation. So I invite you to check our website and read it. So they extract from that huge pit that I've shown you in the previous slide, they extract over the years 300 million tons of material. Some of it was processed, 75 million tons that you see in white there. Some of it was not processed, 104 million tons, which is composed of waste and ore. And another 100 million tons that you see in the back, they try at the end to separate the sulfide and the oxide. Why it's covered with tarp? It's just because there's so much sulfur still that it produces acid water every day. So now I'm going to show you a satellite picture. So in green, it's the area that was covered with tarps that correspond to the stockpile. And in orange, it's the tailing. So what we own, Cerro de Pasco resource, we own the mineral rights on the stockpile and the tailing, which correspond to the yellow rectangle. So in fact, we own the mineral rights on the largest above ground mineral resource on the planet. The pit has been shut down. It's owned by Volcan, which is partly owned by Glencore. Since the pit is shut down, Glencore has some interest to leave Cerro de Pasco. They still have the flotation facilities that use to process 13,000 tons per day. So historically, they were extracting from that pit 20,000 tons every day. They were processing 13,000 tons. They were stockpiling 7,000 tons per day. Why they were doing that? Well, they had every morning 20 fresh tons coming from the pit there. So in 2019, we tried to acquire the whole thing. The pit, the two flotation facilities, the oxide plant. So we start negotiating with Glencore Volcan, and we end up that we were going to buy the two flotation facilities for $1, assuming some liabilities, but not all. But we had to buy the oxide plant for $140 million US. That was going to be financed by Glencore Volcan through a silver stream. Let's recall that in that tailing, there's still 110 million ounces of silver. So we're just about to sign that in March 2020. We're ready, 4 months of due diligence. We're ready to sign this. What happened in March 2020? COVID. So most of the mine in Peru, I would say all the mines in Peru were shut down. Peru was the most affected country per capita in the world. So the mine was shut down, no ore, no money, no money, no stream, no stream, no deal. We end up not making a deal. But we spent 4 months with 2 engineers, 2 geologists at the site, taking monthly report from what they have processed from 1906, when Mr. J.P. Morgan made that investment, until 1992, when they stopped sending material in that tailing. So with the monthly report, we end up with those statistics. 75 million tons have been processed at 4% copper, 3.3% lead, 8.6% zinc, 3 ounces silver, 3 gram gold. 13,000 tons per day. Was this ever a rich mine? So we know also precisely what they have recovered. So you can see here 60%. Why the recovery was so poor? First of all, it was 1906 technologies. The reagents were not so good. It was coarse grain. And in addition, what we read is that they were doing the flotation on 24 hours instead of regular flotation that you do 48 to 72 hours. Why they were doing that? Again, every morning, there was 20,000 fresh ton coming from the pit. So they were throwing the batch away. So the tailing is very, very rich. So very simple. What was there, the head grade, less the recovery, this is what is left in that tailing. 75 million ton at 1.6% copper, 1.3% lead, 2.2% zinc, 2 ounces silver, 1.2 gram gold. So at the end of the day, if we put everything in silver equivalent, it's 460 million ounces of silver equivalent. It's $15 billion worth of metal above ground. Let's recall that 40% of the cost of producing a base metal or a precious metal is mining. There's no mining here. So what's left to do is to transform that resource into a 43-101. So we need to perform those 40 holes. So we had, for that, we have what they call a Declaración de Impacto Ambiental. It's an impact environmental study. This is done 2 years ago. We have the permitting from the Minister of Energy and Mine. So what is left is get this access right. So why it was so long? Just because in 1999, the mine was still owned by Centro-Mines, which is the government. So they sold it to Volcan in 1999, but Volcan didn't want the stockpile and the tailing. Why? If you remember 1999, gold was at $262 US. So at the time, nobody were thinking even of reprocessing tailing. So Volcan bought the pit, the flotation facilities, but they don't want to get the tailing in the stockpile. So the government have to create an independent entity called Activos Mineros, which is mandated to take care of that acid water, which is produced every day, or close the area. But they cannot close it because we've got the irrevocable rights on the minerals. So we had to go into a very long process that lasts 2 years, where we had to get the resolution from 4 different ministers and end up having the Minister of Energy and Mine, the Minister of Agriculture, and the President to sign a forced easement. This is going to be the 5th ever easement signed in Peru. This should happen at some point next week, after 2 years of waiting. So just rapidly, from our model, just the Quilacocha tailing, when we perform those holes, we transform the resource into a 43-101 resource. We should end up with an NPV at $1.35 billion US. We're trading presently at 40 million market cap Canadian. That mine should generate $122 million US profit per year at 10,000 tons per day. So how we're going to do it, and I'm going to finish with that. So that mine was historically operated very, very aggressively. So how we're going to do, what you see in orange is the tailings. We're going to put a hole there. It's going naturally to be filled up with water. We're going to bring a ponton, create the mud, and pump the mud 1.2 kilometers away to those two flotation facilities. We're going to do that 10,000 tons per day, day and night. No noise, no trucks, no dynamite, no dust. The population of Cerro de Pasco loves us. This will be Cerro de Pasco in 25 years. So if I recap in 30 seconds, what we're doing here, we're going to create the wealth back in Cerro de Pasco. 67,000 people living there. That mine used to employ 7,000 people. Today, barely 500 people work at the mine. I was talking to the president, the mayor of the Cerro de Pasco, and he was telling me, we all want our kids to go to college and university in Lima. We don't have the money. And he's pointing out that tailing and that stockpile that belongs to the shareholder of Cerro de Pasco. He says, this is what's going to bring the kids back to school. So number one winning condition, we create the well back. 2, we're taking care of the acid water. 3, in 25 years, there's no more acid water. 4, we're going to give the government of Peru $23 million US, which is 23% of income tax. Number 5, well, it's going to benefit a lot to our shareholder. Thank you.